Use the Force, Luke.
Live long and prosper.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Shut up and take my money.
By Grabthar's hammer, what a saving.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
X never, ever marks the spot.
Winter is coming.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Stay a while and listen.
Hey ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Your ties are cool.
So say we all.
This is a Play on Nerds.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a very special episode 105, our Halloween special, bringing you a spooky werewolf-filled spectacular. But that's later. Right now, I'm Steve.
And I'm Jarman. Bow ties are cool.
Bow ties are cool. Werewolves are cool. Halloween is great. And we're gonna talk a little bit about all of that.
Absolutely. And I think something we talk about every year a little bit is that throughout our whole childhood, Steve and I threw out Halloween parties every year. And I held on to that tradition into college and into living in Atlanta for 5 years. And then it just kind of died down after that, which I'm sad about. So eventually in my later 30s, I'm going to bring back the tradition.
I don't know. Halloween takes a lot of effort, man.
It does. It does.
A lot of effort. Like we did family costume this year. And while it started simple, once you get all the pieces and stuff together, man.
Yeah, you guys were Ewoks, right?
Joyce and I were Ewoks. Anna was Princess Leia from Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
In the green, like, camo poncho outfit. Yeah. And
your parents cut holes in the shirts and put over their heads.
Well, that's all ours is.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys had ears, though, didn't you?
Yeah, ours have ears. Theirs had ears.
Oh, I didn't see the ears in the pictures.
On top of their heads were.
I just saw the shirts. I couldn't see the ears on their heads.
Oh yeah, well that's all ours are. We just made them very simple ones.
Nice, nothing wrong with that.
Nah, but yeah, Halloween's a lot of energy, man.
It is, but it's fun once you get it right.
It is, and it's like adult Christmas. Because I was thinking about it. It's one of the very few holidays that you're not expected as an adult to spend it with your family, really.
Yeah, it's true. You can just do it with your friends.
It's not Thanksgiving, and there's no obligation to it typically. It's like really your holiday.
That's true. That's why adults keep celebrating it.
But what have you been up to since last we spoke? We had a pretty quick turnaround.
We did, because we really want to get something out for Halloween, which is right now we're recording the night before Halloween. Hopefully it'll be out the day of. That's the idea.
Spooky.
But I just been working my little butt off, and my life has really taken a turn for the good because I didn't know how much I needed rigid structure in my life. And it's really hard as a freelancer. And so for several years now, I've been fledgling as a voice actor, always thinking I could do better. And I knew I could do better, but I didn't know how. I think I have the talent, I have the skills, the technical skills, but I just wasn't making it happen. So I got this schedule together where I need to get in shape and I need to get my money on the line. So I have a rigid schedule from minute to minute of what I do during the day, and it's helped me so much. And I've like quadrupled my income.
Wow,
and it's amazing. It was that simple, just a matter of really putting the work in and really just putting my butt to the grindstone. And for me, this is the weirdest part. I don't know if any listeners out there are like this, but I'm very OCD, very clean. And living home alone most of the time, my girlfriend lives mostly in Marco Island. She comes home for the weekends for her work. And so I would just clean all the time, compulsively. Like, oh, well, I'll get to work later. I need to clean the oven first, or I need to vacuum the floors. And we had pets and stuff, so I was keeping the house clean all the time. So now what I did was I just turned that part of my brain off and said, once a week, I have this many hours to clean the house. After that, I do not clean at all. Unless there's a guest coming over or something, just don't clean. And that alone, and taking away a lot of Facebook time, has made my work ethic so much better. And I'm getting the auditions out there, getting the jobs. And mostly it's a lot of corporate narration, which is basically product videos and that kind of thing. That's the main bread and butter. But I've already gotten...
I mean, as a small-time, as somebody who looked at and considered being a small-time actor for a while after college, that's where the money is. That's where the steady money is corporate gigs and HR training videos.
Yeah, for on camera too. That's true.
Yeah. That's where the little actor money is.
And then probably 1 out of every 20 jobs I do will be like a video game, an independent video game, that kind of thing, or animation, small animation, which is the fun bread and stuff I love that gets my creative juices flowing. But I try to make the other characters in the corporate videos some kind of character as well in my mind, so it makes it more entertaining.
Yeah, but and the other thing is work begets work.
It does, and eventually these clients come back to you for their next video, so you build a client base, and that's the idea. So I'm going to use the money I make to eventually make a more professional demo and then just pursue things that way. So that's really what the past week's been all about, and I'm happy with the results so far. So I'm excited for the future. It's exciting.
Well, good for you.
Yeah. So what have you been up to in the short amount of time we haven't seen each other?
Well, we had part 2 of Parent Visit.
That's right.
They came for 12 days total. When we recorded last, they were in San Fran, I think. Mm-hmm. Did a couple days there, and then I worked a few days. And then Friday night, we went up to other grandma's house, Anna's mom's house, met them there, spent the night, and then the next day went out to Wine Country, which is not that far from Anna's mom's place.
Nice.
And we went to Sonoma and hit downtown Sonoma, which has a lot of nice tasting rooms and shops and restaurants. Lovely park for the kids. And then we went to a tasting room and just had a lovely afternoon. Came back, and then Sunday morning came back to San Jose. Mom and Dad went and rested up. We rested up because that evening we went to a huge Halloween event, one small town over in Campbell. That was just overwhelming and incredible.
Like a festival kind of thing?
It was trick-or-treating at storefronts for kids.
Nice. Yeah,
but it was, I think Anna went last year and she said it was like 4 times more people this year. It was incredible.
Wow.
Like everyone, we were so overwhelmed.
You'll be going every year now.
So overwhelmed. Maybe, man. We'll go with a different strategy. We'll go with like a shock and awe, get in, get out kind of strategy next time.
It was overwhelming.
It was just it was just packed. Like we go to a Sunday market at that town that's pretty full, and this was something else compared to that.
I guess the secret's out.
Yeah, it is. Everybody's going to Campbell.
Interesting.
And now all of our listeners will know too. God damn it, Steve.
Oh, all of our UK listeners.
But yeah, and then I went to work on Monday, came back, we did a nice dinner with Mom and Dad, and they left yesterday morning.
Yeah, this is literally our one day to record for
No, they left this morning. Never mind.
Yeah. It's a whirlwind. So are you exhausted from all the fun?
I mean, not exhausted, but whenever you get out of your normal schedule, it just always takes more energy, and I'm excited to get back on my schedule.
And how's the back doing? Your back went out not long ago.
Oh, I haven't had trouble with it since I had a small reoccurrence about 5 days after the initial one, where I reached to tuck in the bed and hurt myself again. And they had nothing since though.
Nice. Mine too. My back went out similar time to yours, and it's been good ever since.
Well, me losing weight and like walking a lot more has also helped a ton. So I'm also doing some active things to make myself less awful.
That's the idea in life. Is the goal is just make yourself less awful.
There's a Family Guy moment where the new dog looks at Meg and says, "Meg, I'm going to make you a little less gross each day."
Also, it reminded me, someone on Instagram posted today something kind of sad. There was like, it's hard to love anyone else when I can't love myself when I see myself in the mirror, or see my reflection in the mirror. And I was thinking to myself, well, change your reflection. It sounds simple, but it's actually true. It's like you got to do something to change that so you like your reflection. Get a haircut, do different makeup.
Either that or mirrors are breakable.
Break the mirrors.
Just break mirrors.
But you got to change something. You just can't doing the same thing over and over again. Definition of insanity, that fake quote that they attribute to everybody.
In case of ugliness, break glass.
In case of ugliness emergency, break glass. Sort it out later.
I think that's a good segue into some nerd news.
Some nerdy news.
It's time for Nerdy News.
All right, so to stay in the Halloween theme, I picked a story about a creepy crawly, and I've named my story because last week I was listening and I didn't even try.
You were very tired last week. You should be tired this week, but you sounded more tired last week.
Yeah, I'm somehow doing okay right now. So my cheeky title is "It's a Snake Eat Snake World Out There."
Oh God.
in Africa, there's the Cape Cobra, and this scientific team went down to study Cape Cobras and how they relate to the species of ground bird that's everywhere down there, and the relationship they have and how they predate and stuff like that. But what they ended up studying and finding was that Cape Cobras have much higher rates of self-cannibalism.
Self-cannibalism?
Not so as far as self-species, same species cannibalism. Cobra on cobra crime.
So not auto-cannibalism.
No, not auto-cannibalism.
Gotcha. This
team ended up getting called because they said 2 Cape Cobras are fighting, and by the time they got there, one had eaten the other. So between that and doing all these dissections, they kept finding Cape Cobras with Cape Cobras inside of them. So they pulled records about eating habits from all these different snakes, and found that in a large percentage of them, snakes eating other snakes was really common, where other snakes actually made up anywhere from 12 to like almost 50% of their diets, eating other snakes. But eating snakes from the same species is extremely low and extremely rare. And so they basically established that Cape Cobras are doing it at a much higher rate.
Creepy.
Than other snake species, even other snake species that eat snakes. And the first one that they caught that they confirmed ate another Cape Cobra, they named Hannibal.
Very appropriate.
Very, very appropriate. So it's a snake eat snake world out there.
That's pretty gross. That's appropriate for Halloween.
Yeah.
Ooh. So mine is not Halloween related, but I did have a name for it. And it's terrible, just like yours.
Ooh, I'm excited.
What's up with Game of Thrones? So that's because
I can't wait for this.
Naomi Watts, that's why it's What's Up with Game of Thrones. Naomi Watts is going to be in a new Game of Thrones prequel TV show. So this TV show takes place thousands of years before the current show. And apparently, according to them, it chronicles the world's descent from the golden age of heroes into its darkest hour, whatever that means. And they say she plays a charismatic socialite hiding a dark secret as the lead of the show, but we don't know anything else about it yet. But that Naomi Watts, big-time actress, she's going to be the lead in the show.
And HBO's got money to throw.
They certainly do nowadays. Absolutely. They got The Rock on a show, for God's sake. So
I'm just excited that the Game of Thrones universe will continue to live.
Oh, yeah. They had so many shows they're talking about throwing out there. So this is one of the many that may be happening. This one's definitely going forward. But could be interesting seeing the world thousands of years ago before the fall of all these giant kingdoms where they were all really powerful with big heroes and stuff, and probably dragons flying around everywhere. I don't know. So it'll be interesting.
Oh, man. Well, that's exciting. Something to look forward to.
Just going full fantasy.
So today in Copycat Cinema, as we mentioned, we will be comparing 1981 werewolf classics, The Howling and An American Werewolf in London. Before that, to get us in the werewolf mindset, I've prepared a bunch of information for you, for any of you who are not up on werewolf facts and mythology.
And to celebrate that, we'll play a little bit of this song.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right. So werewolves through mythology and history have all sorts of different origins. And I'm going to talk about only 3 of them, but there were tons. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, which I think most of us had to read at some point, Gilgamesh actually rejects a woman because she was known to have turned her last husband into a wolf.
Interesting.
In Greek mythology, there was a king, an Arcadian king called Lycoon or Lycoon, who tried to test Zeus to see if Zeus was really all-knowing and all-seeing. So he tried to trick Zeus into eating human flesh.
Okay.
Zeus figured it out, was pretty mad, and turned Lycoon and all of his offspring into wolves.
Hence lycanthropy.
Possibly. Yeah, there's certainly some naming stuff there. It's similar. And then in Nordic mythology, there was a father-son duo who found these magic wolf pelts. And when they put them on, they turned into wolves for 10 days. They went on a huge hunting and killing spree. And in the end, their wildness got the best of them. And the father as a wolf ended up attacking the son as a wolf, and they were damned forever. It's a great time. Great time.
Interesting.
So that's mythology. But from a historical point of view, werewolves have been sort of in the consciousness since the late 1500s, early 1600s. Werewolves were seen, and lycanthropy, more in general, was seen as a form of witchcraft, and so it got rolled into the witch trials that swept Europe in the 1600s, 1700s, and then died out in the 1800s. But for that, werewolves was a much more general term, and lycanthropy was a much more general term that meant either a wolf riding, becoming a wolf, or wolf whispering.
Wolf-related stuff.
Yeah, just if you were seen near a wolf, you were a lycanthrope.
I've seen Stephen with the wolf.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what happened. This became huge, mostly in French and German-speaking parts of Europe. And one of the most famous cases that came out of this was in 1651 with somebody who, since that time, has just become known as the case of Hans the Werewolf.
Nice.
Just Hans the Werewolf. I feel like his name was probably working against him on this one. So he gets accused of being a werewolf at the age of 18. Just like every other witch trial, they torture him until he admits to something. He admits that he's been turning into a wolf and hunting for 2 years. So then they torture him until he tells them where he got it. And he says, a man in black gave me this ability. So now all of a sudden he's doing deals with the devil.
Mm-hmm.
So then they ask him, do you think that you left your body and went, and your soul went into a wolf, or did you become a wolf? And he said, well, I think I became a wolf because I've got a bite on my leg from when I was a wolf and I still have it. And so they were like, well, magical transformation because of the devil, witch, and they burned him.
People were smart back then.
Similar to witches, burning was pretty much the solution for everything.
God.
So werewolves, they say that there's different ways of spotting them. So just in case you're out in the wild, you can spot a person who's a werewolf because they have unibrows.
Mm-hmm.
They've got curly fingernails, low set ears, and they've got a big swinging stride when they walk.
I see.
Things the werewolves can't even hide when they're human.
So they're all Pitbull, the rapper.
Kind of, yes. Yes. They all have swag. There's plenty of different ways of changing that have come over the years. Some say it's like an ointment or a potion. There's the pelt thing where they put on pelts and turn into wolves, and then they hide the pelts during the day. Some it's that you have to be bitten. And of course, something that's sort of become more recent and mostly emphasized by Hollywood is the transformation during the full moon.
Right.
But in folklore, for the most part, and in history, the way they're accounted is that werewolves are indistinguishable from wolves. Larger, more ferocious, but they're not the man-wolf hybrids that we know. That is almost purely an invention of Hollywood.
Interesting.
Because they had to put an actor in the character and make the audience care about them.
Make them more sympathetic.
Right. And give it. So that's how you get things like the Wolfman and the werewolves that we know now as these sort of half human beasts. But in mythology and stuff, they're just wolves. They're wolves.
That kind of makes it sad, less interesting that we've changed it so much just with Hollywood. Yeah. Sad.
So that's just a little bit of a background on werewolves, where they're coming from.
Oh, what's up with that?
And get us in the mood to talk about the classics, The Howling and an American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
You had too much fun preparing for this episode, Charlie.
It was easy. Now, we will say that for some reason, the director John Landis did not use that song in the movie American Werewolf in London.
Just too on the nose.
I guess so. Yeah. But yeah, it's 1978 it came out, that song, and then 81 was the movie, so he could have used it, but I don't know. We'll talk about that later.
What a fool. What a fool.
Indeed.
So we have two movies, both made in 81, both about werewolves, and both have some good similarities, I think.
Right. At first, I thought this would be like a very loose-fitting copycat cinema, but there was more similarities to them than I thought, and both 1981, so it was worth it.
Yeah. I think similarities, of course, they're both about werewolves.
Well, there is that.
They both get a little bit further into sort of the background of werewolves and where they come from, kind of.
Right. They both have porn theaters involved.
They do both have porn theaters involved. You're absolutely right.
Just really weird connection.
Both movies have some really great, like, graphic gore.
Yes, that's true.
Kind of spread throughout. Some really good effects throughout. Both have similar transformations in some of the techniques that were used and some of the visuals.
And both have a community that is keeping the secret of werewolves in their community.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. And both end with someone getting shot.
A lot of people getting shot. Well,
yeah. Only one person gets shot in one of them.
And I will say that one movie has a Star Trek connection. The other one has a pretty solid Muppets connection.
Yes, it does.
We usually point out in these movies that we review.
So do you want to go through American Werewolf in London first or The Howling first, Jarman?
Well, I guess we'll quickly say what those connections were, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if we'd talk about what we go through. All right.
Well, just so I don't forget, the Star Trek connection in The Howling is Robert Picardo in his first feature film. He played the Doctor in Voyager, the hologram. He didn't have a name. But in this one, he plays like the main serial killer guy, mostly in makeup the whole movie. And he was pissed off because he had just gotten out of like Yale theater school. And he has like no time on screen with his face showing.
Yeah. And this was his first big Hollywood film debut.
Yeah. And he did lots of great stuff since then. And what's the Muppets connection?
Muppets connection is Frank Oz shows up and plays the kid's doctor from Home or lawyer or something.
It's like the American Embassy representative.
Yeah, he's there on behalf of his parents to look after him.
For American Werewolf in London, yeah.
But yeah, Frank Oz, who played Fozzie Bear and Miss Piggy and Yoda and everyone you love. Yeah, good connections from both.
Well, and they show Muppets playing in the movie.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yep. Which we can talk about more later.
Bam.
Oh, yeah. So American Werewolf in London. I'm here to defend this movie and why it's better than The Howling.
Ooh.
So American Werewolf in London, just with dialogue alone, felt more natural. You could easily follow it. It was great, but I forgot our thing we do here, which we actually go through the movie first and talk about.
Yeah, we actually talked about it. It's like, wow, he's going rogue.
He's going rogue. But that's okay because that was one of my first notes of the movie, so it kind of goes along with that because
that's true.
As soon as the movie opens, we see these two American travelers, college guys, who are going on a long trip, 3-month trip through Europe. But we see them in the back of a wagon carrying a bunch of sheep because they're making their way through the English countryside. And they're let out to just kind of find their next destination and walk. But their dialogue starting off the movie was just like, oh, wow, this is going to be a lot better than the other movie. Just more solid acting, just better dialogue, everything. But they go along and they finally found a town nearby with a pub. They want to stop in and get a drink and stay warm and get some food. But as soon as they walk in, everyone's acting real weird. They're like, why are they in here? It's called the Slaughtered Lamb, I think it's called, with a big picture of a wolf on the placard for the pub. And,
foreshadowing.
Yeah. And even the guy's even like, what kind of ad is that for a pub? Because it's really gory and gross looking. And they have a pentagram in the pub, and they're acting really strange. And they ask about the pentagram, and they say they need to leave. And as soon as they go out, the people in the pub are just like, we can't let them go out there alone. They'll die, and it's murder if we send them out there. But they let them go. And they say,
so I kind of didn't feel bad about that guy getting murdered. Because here's the thing, you're right. The pub guys were acting weird at first, but at the end they were telling jokes and joking with them, and everyone was laughing and kind of having a good time. And then the two Americans went and ruined it.
Yeah, and they were like, "What's that all about?" It's like, "Oh man, you had to ask about the pentagram."
And not only that, the friend like kind of knew he was going to ruin things.
Yeah. by asking.
Right. Like you could kind of see he knew what was going to go down. Otherwise, and so I didn't feel that bad when they got kicked out.
And they said, stay on the roads, don't go in the moors. And they immediately leave the roads for no reason.
Yeah. Wander off the roads, go into the moors.
And then they start getting stalked by this werewolf, and his friend gets mauled and killed.
And like mauled hard.
Yeah, it's gory. It's pretty gory.
Yeah.
And then he gets attacked, but bitten. And then the villagers get a conscience. They show up at the last minute and shoot the werewolf and kill it.
And werewolf turns back into a human, right?
Right. And the gore in this movie, we have to say, the director made this as a horror movie, but people thought it was going to be a comedy because they advertised as the director of Animal House. And then people go to see it and they're like, oh my God, the gore is terrible. And these people walked out of the movie.
And there certainly is some comedy and some very comedic elements throughout, but this is very much a horror film kind of at its core.
I got some great laughs out of this film, though. There are good laughs. So I like the best friend, though. I was liking his character, and I was really sad when he suddenly dies. But so the guy goes to the hospital, the one who survived. They sent him to the hospital in London without an explanation. They tended his wounds before he got there. They said he was attacked by a madman. So they have this very serious British doctor who comes to see him, and a very, very cute nurse who's attending to him.
Yes.
That's when Frank Oz shows up. They have the representative from the American Embassy coming to talk to him, and they tell him his friend died. He freaks out, and Frank Oz, it's a really funny moment, just being like, "Why are you freaking out? Calm down." just
yeah. Here's God bless his heart. He does some great characters, but him playing himself is not always the best Frank Oz.
No, but it was a good moment. I enjoyed it.
I don't know. It felt so to be shocked a little bit, but the carryover of like, your friend is just dead. I don't know what's wrong with you. Like the movement, maybe he had to improvise too long or something. Maybe there wasn't enough lines to fill it, and so it just got weird.
That's true. It was a little awkward timing, I guess.
It just felt strange. Like this man's been mauled. His best friend is dead, and he's like telling him to chill repeatedly.
Yeah,
I thought it was
have a little compassion. But then the funny part is the Scotland Yard comes in to talk to the doctor about what happened. And I love this because there's like a really veteran Scotland Yard detective, and he's there with like the rookie. And this rookie guy is just like the bumbling idiot, keeps knocking things over, kind of like a Chevy Chase kind of character.
Yeah.
And his interaction with the doctor, and he like knocks over like his bedpans. They spend like 3 minutes, like him picking up the bedpans noisily and just being quiet, watching him slowly pick them up. And I was cracking up during this scene.
And get them restacked in the right order.
Yeah. And then on the phone before that, the doctor's just like talking to this. It's like, tell this person someone's trying to see him, and he's like, tell him I'm dead. I'm no longer alive. Just tell him that. It was just like, it's a really random, really funny scene in this movie. But then the guy starts having nightmares that was bitten. Really freakish, weird nightmares. One involving a bunch of Nazi wolfmen people dressed in like SS uniforms killing his family.
Yeah, that was the weirdest one.
I don't understand the connection there, but
if anything, it feels like a weird step out of the film.
It does, and it weirded people out too in test audiences. Apparently, they said too. But like they brutally murder his like kid sister and brother and his parents.
Oh, everyone gets shot. There's blood everywhere. They're flipping the house. Like it's hardcore.
And he thinks he wakes up and he sees the cute nurse, and then someone breaks through the window and it's the Nazi wolf guy, and he shoots her to death too. And then he wakes up for real. But man, that was out of place. It was weird. But he's basically better, and they're trying to convince him to act normal so he can be checked out. The nurse decides, because she likes him, so she takes him to her house to stay because he has nowhere to go. But what I liked about that was the nurse, as soon as he gets home, he's like, oh, there's only one bed. And she's like, well, to be honest with you, I find you attractive. I've only got this many sexual partners, and let's do this. And so she basically tells him, let's fuck.
Well, her English isn't great, so she needs to be direct.
Her English? She's English. Shh. But I really liked that. It was just like no nonsense, not your normal character like that, where he had to seduce her. She was just like, well, I kind of want to fuck, so let's do it. Yeah. So at this point in the movie, though, it's like, I don't know, third of the way through, and I'm feeling like the lead actor is kind of dumb and not very good.
Yeah, he kind of isn't very good.
But then he kind of grows on me throughout the movie. I think he gets better later on. But yeah, he's not wonderful by no means.
Yeah, so he continues to have dreams and visions, and
running
he ends
through
up
the woods,
going on a rampage at one point.
Yeah, eventually he she leaves to go to work until midnight, but then the full moon comes out. Oh, and before that, suddenly his friend comes back as this cadaver covered in blood, saying, "Hey, man, I'm still here. I'm in limbo, and I can't go, move on until you are dead because you're the one who, you're the last line of the werewolves or something." So
right.
He says, "You need to kill yourself." And he's like, "I'm not going to kill myself." He doesn't believe him.
I'm not going to attack anyone.
He's like, "I'm just going insane. That's what's happening right now." So when she goes to work, full moon happens. We have the legendary transformation scene of him transforming into a werewolf.
True. Very good.
It won an Academy Award. Actually, the first Academy Award for makeup effects. They made it in 1981. This was the first one to win it for Rick Baker.
Wow.
And then it was really cool because what I liked about it, we'll talk about the Howling later, but this one just moved forward. It happened pretty fast. You weren't waiting for like an hour for this to finish. But he turns to the wolf. He goes out and kills a bunch of British people. Comes back and they hear about it on the news. They can't find him. Turns out he's naked in the cage in the zoo with wolves. And he's like, he doesn't remember anything. And apparently
he steals a balloon and a trench coat and runs off. He gets on the subway.
Yeah, his first instinct is to approach a child and steal balloons from a child as a naked grown man. I'm like, you don't know. That's not a good idea. Yeah, so it was good. He approached a child. Then he finally meets up with her again, and she tries to convince him to go see the doctor.
He feels super guilty. He tries to get himself arrested at one point.
Yeah, because once he figures out the murders happens, he knows it was him, and he tries to get himself arrested, insulting a police officer, Bobby, and he refuses to arrest him. He just thinks he's crazy. So he runs away from her, somehow ends up in a porn theater because his friend waves him over, the dead guy, who's now rotting even more. I thought that was a great idea that they're making him rot throughout the movie more and more. And so once in the porn theater, there's a hilarious porno movie playing where they're having sex and this guy walks in and he's like, "What the fuck you do with him?" And it's like, what do you guys do? I told you never do this again. And the guy says in the bed, he's like, I didn't mean to do it or something like that. But then the woman says, "I've never seen you before." And he's like, "Oh, sorry, wrong room." And he goes out. I don't know. I didn't do it justice, but it was really funny. But then the ghost friend shows him all the people that he killed last night are now with him in limbo as well. And they're all telling him different ways to kill himself, which is pretty funny.
Yeah. The ghosts really are the kind of the comic foil of the whole movie.
Yeah, exactly. But then in the middle of the theater, he turns into a wolf again. And
he's on a rampage, mauls some more people.
The police try to barricade him into the theater. But he starts to break out, and that actually they didn't tell the public that was happening because they wanted honest reactions. So the police were actors, but then they didn't. And so when the wolf actually pops out of the wall, that was honest reactions from the crowd seeing that wolf coming out of the wall.
Wow,
which is pretty cool. But then once he breaks out in the middle of Piccadilly Circus, that area of England, everyone just crashes their cars terribly. And I wrote down, everyone's brakes are horrible because they all just die miserably by flying out of their cars. You see the gore and stuff for them being killed and run over by cars. And
it's before anti-lock brakes. Don't worry about
it. Yes, it was really bad. So they chase him down to an alley where he's blocked in and he can't go anywhere as the wolf. And finally, the nurse,
his girlfriend, and the doctor show up.
Right.
She tries to talk him down, and they have this moment where they connect, and he makes one final lunge, and the police shoot him down.
And they come closer, and they see he's dead, and he's human. So what's an interesting fan theory is that he never really was a wolf, and that he was just crazy, and that that's just the way he saw himself. Since no one ever sees him change once he's dead. So it's like, but earlier on, the cats are afraid of him, dogs are afraid of him, and I don't know. I think there's some real terror from people in the subway that he's chasing down. I think he really was a wolf. I think that's kind of bullshit.
True. And plus he was in the wolf pen, not being bothered by the wolves, which also...
That's true. That means something.
Yeah.
So that is the straightforward description of what happens in American Werewolf in London. It's pretty step by step.
All right, so now that we're done with that terrible thing, let's talk about The Howling.
Yeah.
Howling, directed by one of my all-time favorites, Joe Dante, director of Gremlins and Gremlins 2.
We'll forgive him for this one.
Oh, man, this one's just as good. He's got all of his good luck charms in it. A lot of good stuff.
Oh,
so it starts with the the protagonist whose name I'm literally just completely forgetting right now.
Oh,
what's her name? Dee Wallace.
Karen.
I know her actress. The actress's name, Karen. There we go.
Yeah.
She is a famous news reporter. She's covering the story of the serial killer, but the serial killer knows who she is clearly obsessed with her. The serial killer tells her to come meet him, and it ends up it's at a porno theater, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
And she goes, and the cops who had a wire on her lose track of her, and the killer, I think his name's Eddie, is there. And she turns around and she sees him supposedly as a werewolf, or she sees something that disturbs her terribly. And just as he's about to get her, the police come in, they shoot him, he dies, turns back into a human. So they just think she was attacked by some crazy guy. And she tries to go back to work. She has like a mental breakdown on the air.
She just can't
trying
talk.
to recount this. She can't talk about it. And basically gets sent to the therapist.
A celebrity therapist who they had on TV not long ago on their TV
who just wrote like a famous book about how man is really just animalistic urges and stuff like that, I think.
Right.
Basically. So he recommends that she goes to this place called the Colony, which is a retreat center camp that he helps to run to help people clear their heads and find clarity and relax. And so she goes there with her husband. And this is when the movie really takes off.
You're so convincing.
So they get to the camp. Clearly something is up with all the people there.
They're all very weird.
Yeah, like one's kind of like a simpleton inbred kind of. One's an over-sexualized woman who you only see wearing leather.
She wears the same outfit the whole time. A lot of cleavage.
And Dee Wallace they start hearing scary things at night, and they know something's just not quite right at the Colony.
And the B story is there are two young journalists who are together, who are researching her somehow. How did they get involved? I can't remember.
I think that they're producers from her thing, and they are putting together this story on Eddie the killer.
Right. So they go to Eddie's house
while she's recovering.
They see all these pictures at Eddie's house of like people looking like wolves and strange newspaper clippings and stuff, and a painting of a landscape that they don't recognize.
Yeah. So they find out that his last name was Quist. Then they go to a bookstore and they do some research because they find all these werewolf drawings.
Run by a New York mob boss. Really great casting there.
Mr. Futterman. Yeah, thank you, Dick Miller. He's a classic Hollywood actor from like the black and white era.
Oh, yeah.
And he's one of Joe Dante's good luck charms that makes it into all his films.
That's right.
That's right. There's a couple of those, actually. And that's when they literally load the gun for the last act, when they literally show a big box of silver bullets.
Right. In the store.
In the store, claiming that someone bought them that never came back and paid for them.
And he's like, do you believe in all this stuff? And he's like, hey, it makes money. I sell books, whatever, no big deal.
Meanwhile, back at the Colony, Dee Wallace is having these scary dreams, and she can't, every time she tries to remember what happened or what she saw, she has these terrors and these flashes. Her things between her and her husband are strained. He ends up getting invited out to go on a hunt, despite the fact that he's a vegetarian.
Right.
And he shoots some rabbits, and then he goes, and the kind of messed up, not right inbred guy is like, go in and my sister will cook them for you.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Go in that cabin. She'll cook them for you.
All right.
So he goes in and she cuts the feet off the rabbit and then immediately tries to bone him.
Yep. And he finally shoves her away after making out with her for about 2.5 seconds.
Finally shoves her away and then leaves. But while he's in the woods wandering back, he gets attacked pretty good.
Yep.
And so now he is in theory a werewolf or becoming a werewolf. And that's mostly the rest of his plot is him becoming a werewolf.
Right. I don't remember his name either. John, Bill, Bob, something. He looks like a mustachioed, like ex-football player from high school.
That's right. Meanwhile, the two like sub journalists find out that their name is Quist, and they connect that to the Colony. So they go at where, Dee Wallace happens to be. They head out there, and that's when she's looking at a drawing that they took from Eddie's room, and she realizes it's a landscape she's looking at.
So he definitely was at the Colony.
and she finds his cabin with his view. And that's where she is then attacked by a werewolf, which she cuts the hand off of.
Which we find out later was the inbred dude.
Was the inbred redneck guy.
Right.
But basically it was like a red herring to make you like, oh, there's more than one werewolf. Ooh.
Eventually
man,
the guy, the Joe Bob, whatever his name.
Joe Bob.
He goes called out into the woods in his bathrobe, and he realizes he's being called by the lady in leather and to have sex with her. So they take off their clothes in front of a big fire and have a really long, awkward sex scene, which ends in 2D special effects of them turning into wolves.
Yeah, Joe Dante talks about how it's like one of his most regretted things. They just ran out of money.
It's like so bad.
Like that's all there was to it. He just ran out of money.
Yeah, that's all. That's the whole thing. Yeah.
So that's when Karen and Bill Bob's relationship falls apart because she sees scratches on his back and he had sex with the wolf lady.
How could you? He slaps her across the face. He backhands her.
Yeah. That's just to make you not feel bad about him, basically. Right. And so that is when the subplot, the sub reporter, the female goes to the doctor's office and finds Quist's file. And just as she's about to uncover some huge piece of information and pass it back to the other guy over the phone, oh no, the werewolf's there.
Yeah,
and the werewolf,
he
does, but it is the most longest drawn out chase in a 6 foot by 6 foot room that you have ever seen.
Also, that's the long transformation scene that took an hour. So he stands in front of her, turning into a werewolf.
No, that's next. That's
that is next. You're right.
So he starts and then kills her. So bad, but like chases her in this room for like 4 minutes of film.
Right.
Chases a woman in like a 12 by 12 room.
That's where your budget went.
Yeah, that's where the budget went. That room was actually Joe Dante's office, which we'll talk about in a second. So then Dee Wallace comes in, finds her friend dead, and then bam, Eddie, for the short time you get to see him as Robert Picardo, is there.
Right.
And then starts his transformation into a werewolf. And this is what Jarman was talking about. It's like 6 minutes long. It's all in close up because Joe Dante literally ran out of budget. So they only had his office to film in. They had no more sets. They just had cameras and the makeup that they had already purchased. So they had to use his office, which was that doctor's office redressed.
And so you just stare at this wolf face for like 13 minutes.
And bubbles, and then the snout comes out like 6 times.
I know. It's like, did it retract again? What just happened?
Yeah, it went back in. It got shy.
Hate when that happens.
Hey, it's cold in that room. So she watches it transform. At any moment, she could have escaped.
Right, I was saying she's waiting there just for it to transform painfully in front of her.
Right. And then as it approaches her, that's when she realizes there's just a jar of acid
behind her. Yep.
Just a jar of acid. Throws a jar of acid, makes a run for it. Like you do. She heads back to the colony. Is that right?
Right. I don't remember where she went to go run to.
Oh, God, this is all terrible. So she ends up back at the colony. Let's just say it.
Continuity.
She ends up back at the colony. They basically reveal that they are all werewolves, including the doctor that wrote that book and founded the colony.
Right.
But that's when they bring in this weird subplot that there's like dissent against the doctor.
Because he wants to assimilate with humans and they don't.
And they want to be themselves and be wild and be free. And it's a weird plot to introduce in the last 4 minutes of the film.
And so the young journalist who was like her producer guy was looking for his girlfriend, finds out she's dead, and so tries to find Karen and finds her out with his bullets. Now he bought the silver bullets from the store.
He went back, grabbed the silver bullets from Dick Miller. Went back to and then they're like, yeah, what are you going to do? Shoot us? And then he shoots them.
And they're surprised that it kills one of them. She's like, oh crap, he must have silver bullets.
Well, the best part is it kills one of them, and the other one's like, he doesn't have silver bullets. And then he gets shot too. Yeah. That was real good.
And then the doctor approaches, and he's like, oh, thank God, because he wants to die. So he gets shot by the silver bullet, which is really stupid.
Right. And then they force all the werewolves back into the barn, and then they light it on fire. And you get to see a bunch of werewolves try to break through walls, and snouts come in and they're trying to escape fire. They run to the car. They get in. He floods the engine like an idiot, and they can't start it. And then you get and then all these werewolves attack the car.
That's pretty cool.
And they barely escape. But just as they're getting away, one gets in and bites Karen.
Mm-hmm.
And she is now cursed as a werewolf. So they go back. She says she's ready to go back to work. She goes back on the news and it basically says that there's a secret society of werewolves living amongst us and that she has proof. And then she proceeds to transform into a werewolf on television.
She transformed into a teddy bear version of a werewolf. It looked so weird.
Yeah, there was definitely some visual errors with what happened. And then the guy, the producer shoots her and kills her.
Right.
And then that is basically the end of The Howling.
And then it cuts to a restaurant where they're watching the news as it happens. And it pans over right. And a guy orders a burger for the lady on the corner.
How do you want that cooked, honey? And then it cuts over and it's the leather lady. She goes, rare.
And so the credit sequence are over a burger cooking very close up. You watch a burger cook all the way until the credits are over.
I think it's a real good sequence.
It was interesting. I made me hungry.
Looks like a good burger.
Yeah, like a good burger.
All right. So now, as always with Copycat Cinema, we have each chosen a side. We're going to debate that side. Sherman, why don't you go ahead and restate your first point?
Right. My first point is that the dialogue is simply so much more natural, and it was funny. It was fresh. It made kind of a silly movie feel appropriate and entertaining to watch. It went by so much faster. I was pushing through The Howling, man. I was like, oh, am I still watching this movie?
See, I enjoyed the vast just quantities of silence in The Howling.
And the organs playing loudly.
A lot of organs playing, a lot of sweeping shots of people on couches and in rooms.
Yeah.
Joe Dante, as a director, loves taking in the scenery or visually directing you through the scenery before he starts a scene. You see it a lot in Gremlins too, and a lot of his other films. But it's just like a lot of like sweeping up a couch. Oh, there's a leg on the couch. Oh, there's a lady on the couch. She's asleep. Like, oh God.
Well, I'm sure he got better at it after this movie.
He couldn't have gotten worse.
So yeah, that was my first point.
All right. Well, my point for The Howling is that there's more mystery and suspense in The Howling, because in American Werewolf in London, he gets bit by a werewolf. You know it's a werewolf. His friend comes back to haunt him. You know something's wrong. You know it's inevitable. But in The Howling, there's that element of, was Eddie a werewolf? And then, you find out there's more werewolves. And then the whole colony was werewolf. And it builds and builds, and the scenario gets bigger and bigger. And so the consequences and the stakes feel larger.
And my counterpoint to that,
substantial in The Howling.
It's a great point, but the exact counterpoint to that is that it was so convoluted that there was so much going on that it was just unbearable. So that's what made American Werewolf in London so good, is that it was a straightforward plot as opposed to all that going on.
Well, I don't think your movie had nearly enough plots.
Of course.
I think any good movie needs at least 4 plots.
Of course. My other point is that, excuse me, the nurse was great in this flick. She has great agency. She was her own character, her own independent woman, her own apartment, her own job. And she was she was the first person to say, I love you, or be emotional. That was all the guy doing that. So she was a great character, and it was a good example for women in a horror movie, I think. And she survived.
Yeah. She wasn't like the complete victim.
Yep. And she survived and didn't die at the end of the movie.
Okay. So I guess my biggest point for The Howling is you just got way more werewolf.
There was a lot of werewolf.
Not only in quality, but also in quantity. Both in count, because there's a scene where they're in the car and there are at least, in theory, 6 or 7 werewolves around them. That's
where that budget went.
Yeah, that's where that budget went. Versus in The Howling, where you really only have 1 or 2, really. In American Werewolf in London. You only have that with a 1 and then the 1 at the beginning. And then you have to wait the whole movie to only see it like twice.
That's the great part of it, because it builds suspense. Going off the John Landis was friends with Spielberg, and Spielberg knew in Jaws, when you have a limited budget, you can create great suspense by not showing the creature as much. And I think that was done really well in American Werewolf in London. To counterpoint your point.
Yeah, sure. And so I guess my final point for The Howling is that it inspired way more sequels.
That is true.
The movie. The story and the tapestry of a world that it wove was so robust that they could not fit it in one additional sequel, not even two, but it took 3 additional sequels.
And what was the fourth one? There was a fourth one.
There was a fourth one, which is actually based off the same book that the first one is based off of.
Have you seen any of them?
No.
We should do that.
So they say that The Howling 4, it's based off the same book that the first one is based off of, but is much more true to the book, the fourth one.
So my last point would be, my film had some great music licensing. Every time it would surprise me with the like really popular famous song it was playing. I'm like, whoa, okay, they afforded that. So that it kind of made it. It reminded you this is an American in London. It played a lot of American music, but every song was chosen specifically because it had the word moon in it. So that was very important to the plot.
Ooh.
And my last kind of point after that would be also the ending was surprising and great. Just kind of ends very abruptly. He's dead. Looks at her. She's sad. Looks back at his body and roll credits. It was just like abrupt, but it was no nonsense, straightforward. It was great. I loved it.
You knew what happened at the very least.
Yeah. You knew what the hell was going on.
But here's my final question to you. How long did your transformation take? Because if it didn't take at least 4.5 grueling minutes, then it wasn't nearly long enough.
It was a perfect 1.5 minutes. Or something.
Well, you got to see Robert Picardo change for 3.5 to 4 minutes, and he really acted the hell out of it.
Oh, he did his best.
He did his best. Apparently on set, when he would complain about being like a Yale graduate and just off Broadway, the cast and crew would just remark, well, next time read the script, Robert.
Yeah, which is very true. Sorry, buddy. It's what you signed up for.
Yeah, you know why you're a no name? Because nobody with a name would do this.
You should have known that. Other things, Rick Baker was originally going to do the special effects for The Howling, but he had to leave to do American Werewolf in London. So his assistant, Rob Botton, ended up sticking with The Howling.
And then even more kind of crazy connections. As I said, Joe Dante directed The Howling. Rick Baker was really supposed to do it. And then Rick Baker ended up working with Joe Dante and directing and designing all the gremlins for Gremlins 2.
That's right.
So he did all the creature design for Gremlins 2 later. And so Joe Dante and him did get to work together eventually.
And there's a smiley face sticker that the serial killer uses, Robert Picardo's character, and that smiley face sticker appears in Gremlins. So people think that they're in the same universe. The refrigerator. They could be the same universe.
Also, Dick Miller, the guy who plays the old police officer at the beginning. God, there was at least one more. The news anchor character from the small town makes an appearance in Gremlins as the same character. So there's a lot of suggestion that they're in the same universe in some way.
Which is kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Some trivia for American Werewolf in London. It was the first film we said to win Best Academy Award for Best Makeup. It's apparently Rick Baker claimed to have been disappointed by the amount of time spent shooting the face-changing shot for the transformation after having spent months working on the mechanism. John Landis only required one take lasting about 7 seconds. Baker felt he wasted his time until seeing the film with an audience that applauded during the 7-second shot. So if it was any longer, it'd be too long. So Michael Jackson loved the effects so much in this film that he wanted the same team that did the werewolf and everything to do his Thriller video, which they did. John Landis directed the video as well.
He did.
The episode of The Muppet Show that was playing was a episode called Senor Wences from 1980. But this portion of the show was never shown in the U.S. This is why Americans often assumed it was a fake episode, and why Miss Piggy and Mr. Kermit the Frog are credited. So yeah, it was never aired in the U.S., that portion of the show, for some reason. The lead character was cast because he saw him in a Dr. Pepper ad and it shows. For the love scene in the shower, the lead guy recalled that there are not a lot of showers in London, so they had to build one for the shower scene between him and the nurse, and it was really hard to regulate the temperature, so it was freezing during that shower scene. They do insult Prince Charles' sexuality in the movie briefly. So at the end, they have a heartfelt congratulations to Diana Spencer and His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales on their marriage.
Just dark.
Yeah, which is weird. Yeah. Lead character spends 40% of the movie nude. 40%.
Wow.
Yeah. It took 5 hours to add the undead makeup to the friend, Jack, except the scene at the end at the porno theater where he was simply a puppet, which was fun. Right. So this is we have more copycat cinema stuff we could do with this because there were so many werewolf movies in the 80s. And even 81, we could do 2 more.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
There's Wolfen, the Team Wolf, Howling 2.
Another kind of strange connection here.
Sure.
Sort of thread that runs through this whole thing is so Steven Spielberg makes Jaws. A few years later, a copycat director makes a movie called Piranha. That director was Joe Dante, which is what first got Steven Spielberg's attention for Joe Dante. It's what got him the credibility he needed to make a larger budget film, The Howling, which he became known for doing these huge technical films. He stayed on budget and on schedule. That notoriety got him the job to direct Gremlins, which Steven Spielberg was producing. This movie got Dee Wallace her part in E.T.
Oh, I didn't realize she was in that.
Which Steven Spielberg did. Yeah, she played the mom in E.T. And then a few years later went on to betray both of them when she was in the Gremlins ripoff Critters as the mom.
She played the mom in E.T. and Critters?
She did. Dee Wallace.
Interesting.
All because of Jaws.
And it's funny, this was actually in the IMDb trivia, but they made a Halloween Horror Nights maze for Werewolf in London in 2013. And that was the last time I went to Halloween Horror Nights, and I went through that maze, and it was really good.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah, so I hadn't remembered the movie very much, but the maze was scary as hell, and it had the wolf break through the wall at the end, and it was really creepy. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Well, hopefully you all enjoyed this werewolf discussion for our special Halloween episode, and bringing you back your favorite copycat cinema.
And let us know who you think won the battle. Which one of us won the debate?
I mean, you've done this once before. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to concede that American Werewolf in London is just the better movie.
It really is.
It just, The Howling is fun. It's a very different kind of film. And I will always like it because there's just a lot of Joe Dante in it.
Right.
He'll always be iconic to me because of Gremlins and Small Soldiers and those movies and The Burbs. And you get to kind of see him in his early stages here. And so that's fun for me as a fan.
And there was, I have to mention, American Werewolf in Paris, made in like the 90s, I believe, but I saw it in theaters and don't remember much more about it. And then,
very dark. That's what I remember about it. Very dark.
And they were going to remake Max Landis, John Landis' son, was going to write and direct the remake of American Werewolf in London, but recent scandals with him being outed in the Me Too movement, he's probably not going to do that anymore. So I think it's probably dead in the water at the moment. So, yeah, that's the end of that.
All right. Well, I think that takes us on to some trailer reviews.
Whoa.
Here at A Play on Nerds, we have spent years refining our exclusive trailer rating system.
At the low end of the scale, we have Burn It, where we think you should find every copy you can get your hands on and throw it into a barrel fire. To burn it, Fahrenheit 451 style.
And second from the bottom, we have We'll See. Maybe the trailer was too short. Maybe it was cut oddly. Or maybe we don't know what the hell we just watched.
We'll see. Up next, we have Give It a Buck. Whether you hit a red box, a dollar movie theater in the bad part of town, or a cheap online rental, give this movie a buck and enjoy it without breaking the bank.
And at the top of our rating system, we have Shut Up and Take My Money. The wallets have been charmed out of our pockets, and we are ready to make our hard-earned cash disappear.
And that's our patent-pending trailer rating system for A Play on Nerds.
I'll say right now, I don't think we have any Shut Up and Take My Monies right now this week.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't in a while, actually.
Yeah, it's been a dead sea of trailers for a while now.
So I'll talk about Solis, which was my pick this week.
It all happened so fast. I didn't know what to do.
The explosion blasted open the hull. I'm drifting with limited power and no control. Flying completely blind. Does anyone copy?
I can't hear you.
I can hear you. Who is this?
This is Hathor 18.
Hathor 18. Good. Okay. Who am I speaking to?
This is Commander Roberts. Coordinates. Give them to me.
I just don't have any coordinates.
I need coordinates, Holloway.
Okay, but I don't have any coordinates, Commander.
Give me something. Describe what you see.
How about space? That's what I see.
Your rapid departure from DEC has propelled you straight for the sun. We're coming for you.
I need you to call home. I need to tell her I'm sorry.
What is it?
The cabin window.
What about it?
There's a crack.
We should be able to intercept you before significant radiation exposure and burn.
It's not gonna work. I'll be going too fast. This lifeboat has no airlock. The propulsion and thruster systems are down. I'm sure all Control cares about right now is their insurance policy.
I'm going to get you home.
Can't.
I'm dead anyway.
Don't you dare let go! Don't you ever let go!
So that's
all right. So it's about a guy in some sort of space accident who gets tossed towards the sun and is trying to figure a way out before he plunges into the sun. And this kind of looks like an amalgamation of 10 other films I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like, oh, it's a one-person film, kind of like Moon was. One actor trapped somewhere, and we saw this in Gravity, probably that movie Life. I didn't see it, but
yeah, likely that movie Life.
Exactly. Stuck in space, save me.
Yeah. Oh, countdown until total disaster, and yeah, I don't get it, and I don't care. Like, I won't go see this movie. I won't even give it a buck. I'm sorry.
Well, that's the thing, is it has an actor I like, Stephen Ogg. Didn't know his name, actually, but he's been a character actor in a lot of stuff. He played Negan's right-hand man in The Walking Dead for a long time, and people really liked him in that role. Some people thought he was even better than Negan, but he just shouldn't be shoved into this film as a lead actor this quickly. It's just
like a solo standalone kind of thing. It's just not
right. It's weird casting, weird choice. Effects look great, but I don't care.
So just I'm going to say burn it and throw it into the sun. Let him go into the sun.
I'm giving him one chance. I'm going to give it a we'll see. Like, if I hear any oh, it's surprisingly really good, but I'm doubting it, and it's probably just going to suck. But that's Solis, guys. Aren't you glad you heard that trailer?
Yeah, now for another one we're probably marginally more excited about.
Pet Sematary, spelled wrong.
So many trees.
It's beautiful, right?
It's definitely not Boston.
Here we go. Okay, so what do you think?
Wow. This whole place is ours?
I even got him to throw in a whole forest as a new backyard.
It was a myth. Kids used to dare each other to go into the woods at night. They knew the power of that place. They feared it. Those woods belong to something else. The ground is bad. God! Maybe just some crazy folk tale. But there is something up in those woods. Something that brings things back. Sometimes dead is better.
All right, so that's Pet Sematary, which the original was in the 80s, I think, right?
80s or late 70s, one of the two.
Right.
It's a story we literally have seen the movie before. It looks like there's a little bit more culty kind of stuff, possibly,
right,
than in the original, but maybe I'm just not remembering the original well enough.
It has good actors, John Lithgow and Jason Clarke. I'm not a huge fan of Jason Clarke, but I love John Lithgow.
Yeah, me neither. He, after everything from Terminator on, was kind of a disappointment.
Right.
But he was good for a little bit there.
Yeah, he's not a bad actor. I just don't really like him that much.
But John Lithgow.
Yeah.
Hey.
You always need a bedraggled, crazy old man in a horror movie telling you about things.
But it's going to be the story we're expecting. Cat dies. They bury Cat. They realize Cat comes back. Cat's evil. Kid dies. Bury the kid. Kid comes back. Kid's evil.
Classic. That old chestnut.
But that's the thing. It is an old chestnut because the old movie's a classic.
Right. Kind of a campy classic, I guess.
So maybe they'll take a huge left turn and go in a direction we are not expecting. So the trailer was exactly what they wanted us to see.
Why is cemetery spelled wrong?
But maybe.
Wait,
how's it spelled?
They spell cemetery Sematary. Cemetery is spelled with a C. So I don't know whether maybe it's just like the sign spelled wrong and that's why they call it that or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna bet that's exactly what it is. It's something from the book. I can almost guarantee it.
Probably. But anyways,
this one I'll give it a buck.
Same here. Give it a buck.
Just out of morbid curiosity to see what they do with it.
It's pretty morbid. It's a cemetery.
Spooky.
So sorry, that's the best trailers we could scrounge up that we haven't already covered that are out right now.
Coming up to Oscar season, it'll get better.
Well,
so that takes us on to some radical recommends.
If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up.
What do you recommend I do?
I recommend Pleasant.
All right, so this week I have Daredevil Season 3. I know, a big reach. No one's ever heard of that. But I was pleasantly surprised after being like bored by Iron Fist 2, Season 2, and being okay with Luke Cage Season 2.
Well, everyone felt the same because they both now are canceled.
I know, which I'm hoping they'll come back as the Heroes for Hire, the two of them in one series together, and that's why they're tricking everybody. But yeah, Daredevil Season 3 was a lot of fun. Great action sequences, good drama, great acting. Some people think, without giving anything away, that he whines too much about Catholicism and guilt and God and stuff, but it gets past that. But there's a lot of cool revelations, and you have the return of Kingpin, which is not any kind of spoiler. He's in all the trailers. And
yes, he is.
He's fantastic in this season, so I think it's great. They did a really good job, better than Season 2, on par with Season 1.
Okay.
So watch it.
Well, to add to our Netflix sponsorship, my radical recommends is the new and highly pushed Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Oh, yes. Very highly pushed. So it was good.
So I didn't realize they were remaking Sabrina the Teenage Witch. But that's what it is. It's a dark take. Apparently, it's much more based off of the comic that Sabrina's based off of. But it's the story and elements from the Sabrina the Teenage Witch show that we all grew up with. But dark, gritty. They're real witches. They're really in a pact with the devil. There's a witch society. Everything that was sort of hinted at in a small joke in the show has been expanded. And it really has created an interesting universe. The lead actress in it is spectacular. The supporting characters are great. We're only, I think, 3 episodes in, and both Ann and I have thoroughly enjoyed it.
Wow, I would have thought it would have been cheesy, so that's good to hear.
They keep it. There are a few cheesy moments where they are clearly paying service to the original. Like there are those moments, like in a Terminator film when someone says, "I'll be back." There's those kind of moments. But the show is really trying to pave a way for itself that isn't the Sabrina the Teenage Witch we know by any means. It's a completely different show.
Yeah, because a couple mentions is understandable. You'd want that for the fans that
and the characters have a same name. Her name is Sabrina. Her boyfriend's name is Harvey.
Is that what the original is like?
and Aunt Hilda and Zelda. These elements are the same. She has a cat named Salem, but beyond that, there's really not a whole lot.
Gotcha.
So I say check it out. We are thoroughly enjoying it.
Nice.
The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the remake of Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
So adults and kids enjoy it, or just an adult show?
While there is not any super overt sexuality, or really any major language kind of stuff, it deals with demons and making pacts with the devil. So I could see why a parent might not want a kid watching it, but there isn't anything implicitly terrible.
It's like 13 and up, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a PG-13.
Okay, not bad. Well, that brings us to a little thank you section.
Do we have a thank you section this week?
We do.
Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a friend and a confidant. And if you threw a party.
So, this week we have the return of my good friend Josh, who listens to our episodes still. I can't believe you're still with us. Thank you so much. He said of our last episode, the podcast sounded better than I expected based on your intro comments. Yes, we've had some issues with overmodulation. I don't even know yet if this episode's doing it because I can't tell while we're recording. So I hope it's not where it like kind of pops and overmodulates. But he said it sounded better than he thought. He couldn't really tell that much. So great. I hope this episode's even better. He said Euroband or Smut Search was thumbs up emoji, so he liked that. He said he got.
I'll take it.
He said he got 5 or 6 out of 10. It was really hard.
Better than Jarman.
Yeah, it's a lot better than I did. And he says puppets. What fresh hell is this? So I still can't reveal what the puppet thing is about, but I'm gonna leave you on the hook. You never know what this puppet thing's gonna be about. So
that's right.
I didn't tell you last time either, did I?
No, you didn't. I'm still excited to know.
Oh, good.
Well, thank you, Josh, for sticking with us, and hopefully you enjoy the Halloween episode as well.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll probably be back with you in about a week, maybe a week and a half, because I'm going on a 3 or 4 day cruise for a guy's bachelor party. A friend of mine, Danny, he's getting married. He's in my D&D group. So we're just going on a short cruise right out of Cape Canaveral, which is about an hour and a half away from me.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, a little Caribbean roundabout booze cruise. Mostly playing D&D and board games while we're on the cruise. It's probably going to be raining, so we're just eating food, drinking, and playing board games. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, that sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it'll be great. So maybe about a week and a half, you'll see our next episode coming around.
Yeah, but we won't keep you waiting too long.
Yeah, not at all.
So this has been our Halloween special, Copycat Cinema, American Werewolf in London versus The Howling. Thank you for joining us. We will keep coming back to you, being your nerdy co-host, if you keep coming back to us and being our nerdy audience. Thanks again, Internet.
Stay nerdy, my friends.
Thanks for listening to A Play on Nerds. Find all of this content and even more nerdy news, reviews, and fun at www.aplayonnerds.com.
Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter so you know the exact second we release new podcasts, articles, and other nerdy content. We know you're impatient.
Subscribe to us on iTunes, Podbean, Buzzsprout, Podomatic, and whatever the hell else you use.
Also, please leave us a rating and review on your chosen podcast platform so we can be discovered by even more nerds like yourself.
However you do it, check us out.
And how.